And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. We got to the end of the week. It is Friday, December 6th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 7-game NBA slate for tonight. Lock at 7, one game, 2 games at 7:30, 2 games at 8 o'clock, 2 games at 10 o'clock. Pretty fun setup so far. Most of these teams aren't on a back-to-back, although it gets a little dicey as we go on. But that's okay. We got plenty of time to do this. I don't know if I said this or not. It's Friday, so my memory sucks. I'm Josh Engleman. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Shout out Nikola Jokic. 27 points, 20 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals. Crazy Jokic. And then nothing else mattered. Because if you didn't have Ayo Dosunmu yesterday, you weren't winning a damn thing. 27 points, 10 boards, 11 assists, 3 steals. Basically the same stat line as Jokic, minus 10 points, but slightly different salary. So if you didn't have Dosunmu, you were dead in the water. Vooch with a huge day, 39 real points. OG Anunoby played 39 minutes. We can talk about Mikal Bridges playing 46 minutes and 30 seconds yesterday. By the way, the Knicks won by 24. I saw Greg tweet about it, but this is the second reason why I have no confidence in the New York Knicks this year. I just don't see it. If you are playing Mikal Bridges 46 and a half minutes in a 25-point win in December, and you don't have to. Sims is available. Precious Achiuwa is back. You can play someone else on the team. What are they doing? And it's not just about like running them into the ground, which I definitely think could be a problem. I'm not going to say that has to mean you're dead at the end of the year. I don't totally believe that, but I do think that it can be the case. The bigger problem, and the one that people are going to miss on, is that when the Knicks do this kind of stuff and then get to the playoffs, there's no bump for them. There's no new playoff rotation where you're taking these guys that have been playing 34 minutes a night, and now your best players are playing 40 a night. They're already doing it. So when the Knicks take this, whatever their talent level is from the regular season, it doesn't change when they get to the playoffs because there's no more juice left to squeeze out of them. Whereas you look at a team like, let's say Oklahoma City for right now. What happens when they start playing Shea 40 minutes, Jalen Williams 40 minutes a night? Let's say Chet gets back and he's still playing 30 plus. And then Isaiah Hartenstein's playing 30 plus. Then you start consolidating minutes around your best guys. That takes you from here to here because you've cut out all the crap. The Knicks have already cut out all the crap. So what they have is what they get. Whereas all these other teams, think about Boston. What if they want to just run a 7-man rotation? They can do that when they get to the playoffs and play all the best players on their team 38 minutes. I'm trying to do the Windhorse fingers here. Weird. It's weird. I don't know what the plan is, but how do you not just play more dudes? It's not like it just became an ass beating, right? Like they won by 24. Obviously, it wasn't going great in the first half. But by the end of the third quarter, the Knicks went on a 17-2 run, and then they followed that up basically like 30 seconds later by starting off another 16-5 run. They closed out the third quarter on a 38-11 run. And by the end of the third quarter, they led the game by 28. At that point in time then, Mikal Bridges then played, so up 28, starting the fourth quarter, Mikal Bridges played the first 10 minutes and 30 seconds of the fourth quarter, as did Josh Hart, as did Miles McBride, as did Karl Anthony Towns. Anunoby sort of did it. He came in a little bit later for Precious. Why are those guys playing those minutes? Why? Why? There is absolutely no reason that Mikal Bridges, who at that point in time had not left the floor yet, there's no reason that he should be playing 11 more minutes and only sitting out the final minute and a half. Why? Look, I get playing them more. I don't really have much of an issue with that during the regular season. But why in the world would you do it when the game is over? There's no leverage left in that game. They're 99.9% to win at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Again, I'm all for it. I'm all for playing big minutes. But why in the world would you want to do that in the fourth quarter of a game that you're beating the shit out of Charlotte? I can't wrap my head around that. But that's not important anymore. Yesterday is gone. Today matters. And we're going to break this one down, and we are going to start it off with the Orlando Magic, 3.5-point favorites in Philadelphia, 210 total. This game has the lowest total on the slate by 10 points. It is 37 points behind Indy and Chicago. This total's 210. Indy Chicago is 247. We've talked about this before. Just from points, that's 37 more fantasy points allocated to Pacers in Chicago. That says nothing for the additional shots that get rebounded, the additional assists, the potential for additional steals and blocks. We're talking 50 more fantasy points available to this game. That's insanity. Orlando, I have projected for 229. Indy, I have projected for 255. S&P. Yeah, like, I think there's something to that. Like, I can't say for sure that just when you play big minutes, you're definitely beat for the playoff. I don't. Like that's to me, that's not a thing. They could definitely be on the right side of like getting their guys accustomed to those minutes. But you don't need to do it in the lowest leverage situation. Yeah, S&P, we're on the same page. I hope we're on the same page. The weirder part of this would be if they're not thinking about it at all and Tibbs just does whatever he wants. Like, it could work. Well, it's a long season. It starts in October. It ends in April. Like, you'll find plenty of spots where you can play Mikal Bridges 48 minutes if you need to. It's probably not in a 20-point game against a team that's not going to make the playoff. The Golden Bat thing in MLB is getting a lot of steam. Lord King Guru, yeah, if they do this. Look, if they do it, it just opens up the ability to turn baseball into like a carnival game to a degree. I hate it so much. There are plenty of ways to fix baseball that aren't this. It changes everything. It changes everything. Because in theory, like, let's just use the Yankees, for example. In theory, Aaron Judge is going to get 100 extra plate appearances across the year. Because you use it every day, no matter what. You never bank it. You always, any situation you have, probably early in the game, where you get like first and second, nobody out, or second and third, nobody, like any one of those situations, you just immediately swap them in. I hate it. It changes everything. Teams will not just walk them. Like if first base is open, then you wouldn't do it and they would walk them. But no, they definitely won't walk them. But I think it breaks baseball. I get the understanding of wanting to do something, but I hate it in practice. I hate it in practice. Like, could you imagine if the NBA played it like Rock and Jock or like NBA Jam, and there was like a 10-point circle, like inside half court? Like, yeah, that's cool, but like, what are we doing at that point in time? Like, I like it for the All-Star game or something, but yeah, I don't know. I hate it. I hate it a lot. Anyway, let's break this down. So Magic, same guys that are normally out. No Gary Harris, no Paolo. There's not. Oh, I forgot to copy my lineups. Let me grab those. So I ran Sims on the smaller $15 fadeaway. It's like 6,200 entries, $15 entry point. I'm going to grab my top 50 lineups and drop them in so we can get an idea of where my exposures are. So let's do this. And obviously, it's early. Don't get married to this. Some of these guys are going to look preposterously over-owned this early. All right, here we go. So, scattered ownership coming into Orlando. Obviously, the game environment is bad. We're not getting a ton of ownership here. Philly is the third lowest owned team. Orlando's not too far behind that. We're getting a lot more ownership to many different places. Round 10 is coming into Franz on both sites. Suggs is 15 on DraftKings, 25 on FanDuel. MPE helping him out a lot there. And then Wendell Carter Jr. is 10 on both sites. Nobody else is in double digits. The two guys that I would have my eye on most would be Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr. on the DraftKings side. Not that Franz doesn't look good, because he certainly does. And I got a little bit of him. But I think Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr. are just a little bit easier to get to. Look, 9,500 for Franz Wagner. No matter how good he's playing, that's a really big price tag. And he's playing great. I'm a huge Franz guy. I was before they even drafted him. But 9,500 is a lot. On a day with 7 games, we have other pay-up options that we could talk about. But Suggs looks good. I mean, his minutes are wild. You know, if he stays out of foul trouble and doesn't get himself hurt, he plays like 35 a night, but he's just as likely to play 28 because of foul trouble and other weird stuff. Wendell Carter Jr.'s minutes seem to be there. He also has the power forward eligibility on DraftKings. That's the real big saving grace for him, because if he was just center only, we'll have a never-ending supply of those type of guys. I mean, if he was just center only, he would basically just look like Goga. But the focus, I think, is Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr., assuming they maintain their starting lineups and don't do anything weird in that regard. And then Suggs, for me, on FanDuel is the most likely guy to get to, which is probably the reason that he is up to 25% ownership there. But again, it's really hard to prioritize this particular spot when their game total is, 10 points lower than the next closest game, 15 below the third lowest game. It's just really tough to acquire fantasy points in this environment. And that's why I don't think we're seeing a ton of ownership. Not to mention, this Orlando rotation hasn't really changed much over the past 3 weeks or so. Basically since Gary Harris went down and Wendell Carter Jr. came back, there's these prices have pretty well stabilized. The only person that could actually move around at this point is really Wendell Carter Jr. Otherwise, it's like Goga goes down type stuff. I don't have anything from Orlando that I would want to go and get in a crazy amount of lineup. They're just not that team. Now, the Philly side. God, this team, man. This team. So, Embiid out. Bona out. Drummond, questionable. It's a pretty big Q tag just for where you would give the rest of their minutes. Now, the problem with Philly is that Oubre, Yabusele, McCain, Martin, Lowry, other Martin, Council, they're all really not good per minute dudes. Like at this point, there's no ownership coming into Tyrese Maxey. Now, 0 is a little bit lower than I think it should be. But, I only think he should be in that like 5% range. The only guy getting any love is Paul George on FanDuel and DraftKings, I guess. 13% ownership to Paul George on DK, 19 on FanDuel, no more than 2 to anybody else. I got a random Yabusele share. I got a random Tyrese Maxey share. That's it. But like, why would you want it? The game environment's terrible. They're running into an Orlando defense that's obviously really good. Like outside of Paul George at 7,600, assuming like the minutes are now real, I can't imagine really getting to much else from Philly. Maxey and Oubre are the only other guys that I would be like okay with. Like Yabusele is already priced where he should be, and then some to a degree. Now, if Drummond ends up out, maybe you feel a little bit better about some of these guys. But again, Philly is 15% owned on DraftKings. The Warriors and the Bucks are the only teams that have less ownership at 7. These guys are unowned and they should be. And it really is only Paul George. Dwayne Scott, you were right on many fronts last night, but not on Sohan. It's almost like something happened before that game started that made things a little different. I can't put my finger on it right now, but I think something different happened. I'm not totally sure. Did something change for the Spurs that would have made that different? Oh, that's right. He started at center. Not the assumption that a single person had throughout the entire day. If that lineup came out at 6:30 and we were on a show, the way that we talked about Jeremy Sohan would have been slightly different. But considering no one in the world had him starting at center yesterday, the entire slate was completely changed by the Spurs lineup. So yeah, I got it wrong, but everybody got it wrong. Now, let me be clear here. I don't think I would have liked Sohan all that much knowing that he was starting at center. It would have gotten better for sure. The rebounding rate would have gone up. Probably would have felt a little bit more comfortable projecting his minutes a little bit higher too. But he was already priced like sort of where he should have been. He had an outlier day, but he wouldn't have looked like, at least just thinking about it right now, he wouldn't have looked like everybody else did prior to that. He would have looked a lot better than he did. But yeah, I mean, the whole world thought Zach Collins was starting up until the moment he wasn't. Sohan didn't start the previous game. So yeah, it was slightly different inputs once that happened. It's crazy, by the way, that we talked about this slate yesterday for like 12 straight hours, and that's how it shook out. Love it. All right, game 2. Los Angeles Lakers on the road in Atlanta, 4.5 point dogs taking on the Hawks, 231 total. This is the second highest pace game in my model. Q tag Bronny James, Q tag LeBron James. So Q tag LeBron James, Q tag LeBron James the second. No Austin Reeves. Everybody else that's normally in is in. Now, as we look at the Lakers, there's a lot of ownership coming in here right now. 140% ownership to the Lakers. They are the most owned team on DraftKings. And obviously, they are live to look very different. Dwayne, you're good. You're good. This could change dramatically if LeBron happens to be out for this game. So we're going to need that news in a big way. 53% ownership coming into a $5,400 D'Angelo Russell. So shout out D'Angelo Russell for finally getting that price tag north of $5K. We're doing chalk D'Angelo Russell again. I'm not shocked that it looks like it does. He looks good, assuming those minutes are still there, which they should be. And obviously, if LeBron ends up out, all of this looks even better. But D'Angelo Russell's the chalk play once again today, and I don't really see any reason why he shouldn't be. He ended up in 44% of my stuff to start the day. AD's 30% owned on DraftKings and 50% owned on FanDuel. No disagreements. I have his boom rate near 50%. He has the power forward eligibility on FanDuel. Should get a ton of ownership. I got him 32% on the DraftKings side, matched the field. I matched the field on Dalton Connect as well. He's 28% owned, 4,700, shooting guard, small forward. You know, he's a 0.85 guy. The minutes are there with Austin Reeves out. So I want to get to the Lakers. Obviously, I want to get to this game just because it projects as well as it does. I have the Lakers with the third most optimal odds of any team on this slate. I am a little light on LeBron. I'm okay with it. Dude's been playing like shit so far this season. I don't have a ton of interest in getting to a lot of LeBron. Scares me. And then, you know, Rui's fine at 4,900. Fine. Nothing crazy. 10% owned, 10% of lineups. That all looks okay to me. But, I mean, this LeBron James guy, looking a little different lately. But, like, it's all marginal. It's all marginal. He's shooting 34% from three. It's just like everything's ticking down a hair. It's starting to get a little dicey for the old man. Birthday coming up. 24 days, Bron. 58% true shooting for LeBron James. The lowest. This would be the lowest true shooting since he was in Cleveland 2015. 34% from three. It's the lowest since 2019. The assists are still there. He can obviously run the team. The defense is gone. That just disappeared. He doesn't do that any longer. But he ain't LeBron anymore, man. He ain't LeBron. But you got to get to the Lakers. They're one of the best options today. Russell, Connect, AD, priorities today. LeBron knocking on the door. But the biggest thing that we could do here is find out whether or not LeBron James is actually playing. Now, on the opposite side for Atlanta, they're really difficult because they all kind of look the same. Like, I have all of their optimal rates basically around 10%. They're all like 8% owned, except for DeAndre Hunter, who's 17. He's small forward, power forward eligible, 5K. He's also the guy I got the most. He's the easiest guy to roster from Atlanta. But like the FanDuel ownership, Dyson Daniels is 6. Everybody's below that. But look at what I got here. 6% Jalen, 6% Trey, 6% Daniels, 6% Okongwu, 6% Risache, 8% Bogdanovich, 30 for DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter is the easiest guy to put in a lineup from Atlanta. But I don't mind getting any of them. You know, I think Jalen Johnson looks good. I think Trey looks good. I think Daniels finally looks okay at 6,300. Bogdanovich, Okongwu, Capella. Like, you could roster all these dudes from Atlanta because of what this game environment is. But I don't think outside of Hunter, there's one guy you just pinpoint to get a ton of. I don't think they're set up like that. I don't think they're set up like that. Brian Ingle, isn't he playing more than he has the past few years? So, sort of. His minutes are the lowest per game. His minutes are the lowest they've been since 2021. He's at 34.5, but he hasn't missed a game yet. He's 22 for 22. That was like the big thing. LeBron wanted to play every game this year. Well, spoiler alert, the 39-year-old, well, the almost 40-year-old LeBron James, probably not going to make it through 82 straight without his body dying on him. Which makes sense. Like, I don't say that as a criticism. That's just how life works. The real problem for the Lakers is that they're not talented. And when you have to sit LeBron James, you're replacing him with Cam Reddish. And, well, that should explain everything. I want everyone in my lineup at 6% or less. It's easier to win. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and disagree wholeheartedly on that one. Going to have to disagree. And then I'm going to have to go to the Milwaukee Bucks, the team that is the lowest owned team on today's slate. Welcome back to my boy, Chris Middleton, active for today, probable, along with Giannis and Taurean Prince. My guy, come on back, Chris. Now, slight problem here. Chris Middleton is not going to play a lot. And it doesn't really seem like we're going to be getting to anything from the Milwaukee Bucks. I got 8% of Giannis. He's 3% owned on DraftKings, the most of anybody on the Bucks. 4% of Giannis on FanDuel. That's the most of anybody on the Bucks. The Bucks are 7.5-point dogs in Boston, 229 total. Terrible spot. It's great that they're getting Middleton back. I went 18 minutes. Full stop, unrosterable. But I don't know how you get to anything here. Dame's unowned. GPPs only. Giannis, not a priority pay-up option. Not that I'm telling anybody to not play Giannis Antetokounmpo, but, 12K is no joke. And we have other options on this slate. If you want to roster Giannis, that's not the message I'm giving you. And he's probably a little underowned, honestly. But to me, he's not a guy I want to take a stand on. Wouldn't mind if it happened. Don't expect it to happen. But after that, I didn't get a single share of anybody from Milwaukee. And I'm not entirely sure where I would go. I mean, the focus is probably on Dame, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. But there is no focus. This is the worst team you can get to today. Well, they're one of the worst teams you can get to. I have them, let's see, first, second. I have them with the third lowest optimal sum and the third lowest boom sum. You're going to need a lot of dudes out for Boston to really want to get to Milwaukee for any sort of balance. But even then, now for Boston, I'm not even going to bother breaking this down. There's no reason to do it. The only thing I'll say, and we'll look at it here. I have this line because Jason Tatum is questionable. Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. Al Horford is questionable. Someone is sitting for sure. For sure, someone's sitting. Well, I don't want to say for sure. If no one sits, then the line moves. Because I have the line at 10.5. I'm 3 points above the line. I think Boston should be favored by 3 points more if they're all in. Which means if they're all in, 7.5 is coming up to like 9 or 9.5 at least. But I think the implication is the market is saying we're probably losing one of these dudes. Potentially two, but we're probably losing one of these guys. So we can't really break anything down here. There's no ownership coming into these guys yet. Not that I expect a ton anyway, but let's say Jason Tatum and Horford both sit. Like Horford and Porzingis, this is going to be the easiest way to think about it, I think. I would expect one of Al Horford and Porzingis to sit today and the other one to sit tomorrow. That seems like it makes sense. And then Jason Tatum isn't a part of that conversation. It's just sort of like, do they want to sit him today and then play him again tomorrow? I don't know. So we need that news. I mean, we're talking about 90 minutes up in the air. We're going to lose one of Porzingis and one of Horford. That's happening because they're not. I would be very surprised if they sat them both in the same game. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. You have one active today, knowing that you're going to sit the other one the next day. Crispy, nice, man. Ship the quarter arcade on Yahoo. I love to hear it. Love to hear it. So yeah, like, if Tatum sits, then Brown and White are going to look really good. Whichever one of the centers sits, you're probably going to be able to like have the ability to click on like Kata's name or something. Not that I think that that's going to be like a great thing, but that just frees up so many minutes. So this is a deeper dive or live before lock conversation more than anything else, because we just need this injury news. For right now, we would have to break down a lot of different scenarios based on in and out. But they're going to sit somebody. We just don't know who it is. The Indiana Pacers. This is the big one here today. The Pacers are 3.5 point favorites in Chicago, 247.5 total. This is the highest total by 16 points. This is 16 points higher than Lakers Hawks. It's the highest pace by 2 possessions. I have this at 103.4. Lakers Hawks is 101.7. Next closest is 98.4. So I have this 5 possessions higher than the third fastest game. Andrew Nembhard, questionable. I'm assuming he's in for this one. We're getting a ton of ownership to the Indiana Pacers. They're 134% owned on DraftKings. That's the second most behind the Lakers. But this is balanced more. 15 to Halliburton, 15 to Siakam, 20 to Mathurin, 25 to Turner, 30 to McConnell, 20 to Toppin, and just shy of 10 to Jarris Walker. And it's kind of the same thing on FanDuel. 20 to Halliburton, 25 to Siakam, 60 to Benedict Mathurin. And I don't think that's crazy. 10 to Turner, 30 to McConnell. All of the ownership is coming in here to take on the dog shit Chicago Bulls. Just for anybody to know, the Chicago Bulls on the season have the third highest defensive rating. The Chicago Bulls on the season play at the number 1 pace. The Pacers are 8th in pace. They're 26th in defense. So this is 2 top 10 pace teams, the 26th ranked defense, and the 28th ranked defense. Whew. So I got to 20% of Halliburton, 20 of Siakam, 35 of Mathurin, 30 of Turner, close to 40 of McConnell, another 15 for Toppin. I don't know how you dodge these Indiana guys. Even if Nembhard's back, it doesn't matter. I have 156% of the Indiana Pacers. They are by far my most owned team. And, as I see it, I would never want to get away from this. I would never want to get away from this. Not to mention 8 o'clock start. So you'll lock Orlando, Philly, get a little bit of information. You could late swap Lakers, Atlanta, Milwaukee, Boston. And then when you get to that 7:30 to 8 o'clock window, you still have 4 more games to make additional changes. So not only do I think Indy looks great, but having all of this ownership increases my flexibility between 7 and 7:30 and from 7:30 to 8 to move stuff around as we get more news. I wouldn't even hate having more of these guys than I have right now. Like this, I mean, outside of like Quentin Jackson and Johnny Furphy, I'd pretty much roster anybody. Like one day Nembhard's just going to play more than we thought he did and be a value at his price tag. Maybe it's not today, but the likely scenario is that Nembhard's price, if he doesn't play well today, goes down. Now, if you want me to pick who I think is the best pacer, it's probably Mathurin, just because of the shooting guard small forward eligibility. Like Halliburton is point guard only, Siakam is power forward only, Turner center only, McConnell point guard only. Mathurin creates that flexibility that makes it a lot easier to get to him. But I don't really see look at my optimals and boom rates. 10 to 15 on my top 6 dudes here. All those guys getting ownership. And then 23 to 31 in boom for all those guys. There's not a lot of differentiation between them. They all just look great because they play the Bulls. You guys, that's 2 Siakams here. Yeah, like I don't think that's a crazy take in any way. Yeah, S&P. The only thing I'm worried about there is I don't know if that's a Nemhard thing or not. I don't think it is. But I don't know. I feel like Furphy slots in better to the smaller side, just from a weight perspective. You guys can see it on the screen. Whereas Walker is sliding right more. But I don't know. Yeah, Hermit Money. I like the top and shout. You know, he's 21% owned. I ended up a little lighter on him, but 3,600 power forward center. And like, they're not playing Moses Brown now. So like the backup center is whatever you want to call either Toppin or Siakam whenever they're on. And then we get to the Chicago side. Now, Chicago's on the back-to-back. Giddey was questionable heading into yesterday. I'm going to assume he's probably questionable again today, but who knows? But from an ownership perspective, everything that we just said about Indy isn't happening for Chicago. Now, I think they're under-owned, at least a little bit. Only Jalen Smith got to double digits on DraftKings. Levine and Dosunmu both hit 10. Dosunmu's 9 on DK. Everybody else is in the 5 range, but I kind of think Zach LaVine is under-owned for this spot. 7,700 shooting guard, small forward, only 6% owned. I got a little bit more than that. I think you can make a case that Vooch is a little under-owned. I had him 9% optimal. He's 4% owned. Dosunmu looks about right. If Giddey's in, I mean, his minutes have been yikes lately. But I'd be happy to get to him if he's in. Then you get to that crew of Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, Buzelis. None of that looks good. Their prices aren't flat min anymore. I understand the appeal of the Jalen Smith backup center stuff. Revenge narrative too, I guess. But Jalen Smith is the guy I got the most. But unfortunately, without it, unless Giddey ends up out today, I'm not sure Chicago looks like they did yesterday. What happened with Bub Carrington yesterday? Did I miss something? Now I really don't understand. What am I missing about Bub Carrington? Eight game, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Wait, hold on. He was ruled out. Talks of him being inactive, but he played. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember seeing Greg talking about that. Wasn't on my radar. Where will Vooch be after the deadline? Chicago? I don't know why he'd be anywhere else. I mean, if Chicago's smart, which they are not, they never have been, they probably won't ever be. This would be the time to trade him. You know, when he's just being the luckiest guy he's ever been. But, I mean, no one wants him. Like, he's not a starting set. He's Jovel. He's Jovel. Like, he's not a starting center. CG, never. Never. Yes, this Chicago Bulls front office has never been good. That's not even a wild take. They've been an atrocious front office for like a decade across Garpax and Karnišovas, or Karnišovas, however you're supposed to say that. Tough one. They've both been awful. Yeah, David, that's almost what I'm saying. Nailed it. God, you guys are... They need to start teaching, like, speech comprehension. Our entire country. Like, the internet's ruining people. I don't understand how people hear something and then just immediately like, well, time to make myself look dumb. It's crazy. Yeah, never. This front office, not Jerry Krause. I'm not talking about that guy that ran the team fucking 30 years ago. Jesus. Why would I be referencing a group of people that aren't involved with the team? Yes, Garpax and Karnišovas for the past 10 plus years have been probably the worst front office in basketball. Oh my God. There's that comprehension I was talking about. Game 5. Sacramento Kings, 4.5-point favorites in San Antonio. 227 total. Oh, Sacramento. But once again, Keon Ellis just isn't going to be a part of this team, which I legitimately cannot wrap my head around. It makes no sense at all. 10% ownership to DeRozan on DraftKings and FanDuel. Single-digit ownership to everybody else. And, like, I get it. Like, they should all be, like, 8% owned. De'Aaron Fox, Murray, Sabonis, Monk, DeRozan. Like, I got the most of DeRozan. How the hell do you separate these 5 guys? Truly. I have no idea how to do it. When you guys look at Sacramento, does someone jump out? Because I feel like if I ask that question, chat is just going to have all 5 guys be different answers. Like, they all are... It's just Fox and Sabonis and Monk and DeRozan just all competing for the ball. They all want the exact same thing. How the hell do you prioritize somebody in that? Now, they're on a back-to-back. Maybe it looks a little different today. I don't know. But, like, the weirdest part of all of it. So, Fox plays with the second unit a little bit. But, like, DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, and Domantas Sabonis essentially just all play only their minutes together. And then Fox and Murray are doing the same thing, just having staggered rotations. What do you do here? Every day that you roster DeRozan, it's going to be a Monk day. Every day you roster Monk, it's going to be a Fox day. Every day you roster Fox, it's going to be a Sabonis day. It's just... I can't just pick one of them. I got more of DeRozan, but it's not like I'm stoked about that. I don't know which one of these guys to prioritize. I don't know what they're doing as a team. I truly can't figure it out. I really can't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're still projected with the 10th best odds to make the playoffs on dunks and threes. So that means final seed in the play-in. R. Stanley, the team on paper shouldn't be better. The problem is this team on paper is awful on paper together. All of these guys individually, I don't mind building around, they're doing it in the worst way possible. I can't think, like, in terms of, they're sort of just like the talented version of the Bulls to a degree. But they're all the exact same guy. They're all just offensive first dudes. Ignoring Murray here for a second. Fox, Sabonis, Monk, DeRozan, slightly different play styles. They all want the exact same thing. All they keep doing is just acquiring the same stuff. None of this fits. None of this fits. I can't think of a team that needs a trade more than the Sacramento Kings. See, I get what you're saying there, S&P. My only disagreement would be, like, you can build around these guys. Like, they're good. Like, Sabonis is good. Fox is good. Not everybody can just have the number one playoff style team. They fill around these guys in the worst possible way. That's where it gets, you get like a stretch four that can block some shots alongside of Sabonis. You use a guy like Keon Ellis that can guard somebody in the backcourt and potentially knock down some threes. Like, you can see where the pieces should fit together, but they just keep getting the same damn dude. So, I guess the moral of the story is DeRozan. On the San Antonio side, look, I'm not going to begin to guess this. I have no idea if Wemby's playing today or not. I don't know if Devin Vassell is going to play the back-to-back. I went with the same team they had yesterday, and I went with the assumption that Zach Collins and Charles Bassey are not the starting centers. We're getting 37% ownership to Stephon Castle. Feels a little high, but I got there. Keldon Johnson's getting 15% ownership. He had a pretty big day yesterday. That looks good to me. You can get to Jeremy Sohan, assuming he's starting at center again. I don't want to dig too far into San Antonio, though. It doesn't appear to me that San Antonio is going to be playing Wemby today based on the line. But, like, the Vassell piece will matter a lot. Chris Paul could potentially matter here in a back-to-back. So we need more information for San Antonio at this point in time. If it looks like it did yesterday, Jeremy Sohan, Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson are the three guys I want to look at most. Yep, S&P. Totally agree. Totally agree. So we need this info. It doesn't appear that Wemby's going to play. I assume we get something like yesterday. If that's the case, Castle, Keldon Johnson, Sohan are the names we want. But we don't know their injury report. They played yesterday, and they didn't have their best player. So I don't totally know what we can do with that information right now. Very quickly, schedule for the rest of the day. Let's get the Greg message in here. Here we go. NFL strategy show at 10 a.m. Laffy and Greg breaking it down. NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. I'm back with DK at 5 o'clock for the deeper dive. Greg and Eric are going to be on live before lock at 6. And then Greg and I will close this one out on playback tonight from 7 to 8. That's going to be a big one, too. A lot of late swap opportunities, lots to talk about. We're probably going to have some news we're waiting on. Playback's going to be a very important one. Final two games, 10 o'clock starts. Minnesota Timberwolves, 1.5-point dogs in Golden State, 225 total. Minnesota, it's a tight game. We do have injury reports here, which is helpful. Well, technically we don't have Golden State, but for the guys that matter, I think we know it already. Minnesota's just what they always are. We're getting 10 to 15% ownership on Gobert, Randall, and Conley. Everybody else is under that mark. Conley's 30 on FanDuel again. David, I love you. I love that you just jam shit in your ears so you hear nothing. It's the best. It's the absolute best. It's the absolute. Never change. Never change. I'm sure you're fun at parties. So I got to 18% of Gobert, 18% of Randall, 16 of Conley, 10 of Naz Reid. I like the pieces of Minnesota here just because they kind of just play everybody. Josh Minot played first quarter rotations last time out. Keep your eye on that. But, you know, like, Ant looks okay. Gobert at 6,600. You know, if this guy could ever catch a pass, I am, bud. Ask your mom. Hold on. I'm going to get on the phone with heaven here. Hey, Ma. You been coming back as a ghost and haunting David? My mom's coming back as a ghost. Quite confident she's not coming to haunt you, brother. A lot more fun and tasks than random internet dorks. Amazing. At some point in time, Gobert's just going to have a crazy game where, like, he catches the ball and makes layups and the rebounds are there. Feels like it could be this game. Conley just keeps being, like, a decent value. I don't want to play him, but I will. Like, I have all 8 guys from Minnesota in a lineup. 8% Ant, 18 Gobert, 18 Randall, 16 Conley. I got a share of McDaniels, 6 of Walker, 10 of Reed, 4 of DiVincenzo. Their entire 8-man rotation shows up in a lineup for me, and that's sort of how I see it. They're kind of like an unconcentrated version of the Kings, where like everybody sort of looks the same relative to salary. Now for Golden State, the assumption here is that Steph is playing and that Draymond is playing. They both have props out there. If that's the case, one thing you're not playing are Golden State Warriors. They're the least owned team on the slate. Kuminga got to 3%. Buddy Hield's 4,300 on FanDuel if you want to click that button. I got 1 share of Steph, 1 share of Wiggins, 1 share of Kuminga. There's no team we need to talk about less if Steph and Draymond are playing, because they're running into a Minnesota defense and they're going to play 11 dudes tonight. So full stop. Don't even pay attention to the Golden State Warriors. Finally, Utah and Portland, yuck. Apologies to anybody that actually has to watch this trash. 3.5 point dogs, Utah in Portland, 220. $25 total. 10% to Markkanen, 15 to Kessler, 10 to Keontae George, 25 to John Collins, and around 15 for Colin Sexton. Look, you got to get to parts of Utah here. That ownership exists for a reason, and it should. Colin Sexton, by the way, 40% owned on FanDuel, where he's 5,700. So, like, I got the 20% of Markkanen. Happy to get there. Think he's a hair under-owned at 11%. I got the 10% of Kessler. He plays like 32 minutes a night. I've been getting him or trying to get him a lot lately. Matchup against Portland isn't going to turn me off of it. I didn't get any Keontae George, but, you know, he looks like he should be 10% owned. I ended up a little bit under on John Collins. His prop market is really low. I'm actually higher on him projection-wise than the market shows right now, and I still didn't get to that ownership. So that's something I'm going to have to pay attention to. And then Colin Sexton, I think, just looks like he should be in that like 10 to 15% range. But that starting 5 group, the Markkanen, Kessler, George, Collins, Sexton, yeah, because they're playing Portland, and Portland stinks. So does Utah. But unfortunately, we're going to have to pay attention to this game. Lots of late swap opportunities, too, heading into it. You know, you can move some stuff around based on what your lineups look like with 2 games at 10. And then finally, Portland. Still no Klingon, still no Time Lord, still no Matisse Thybulle, and Scoot is questionable. Now, we're only getting 10% ownership to Grant, Ayton, and Sharp. Simons is unowned, Scoot's unowned, Kamara, Denny. We are getting 34% ownership to Ayton on FanDuel at 6,100. I actually don't think that's crazy at all. He should be pretty heavily owned here. Guy I got the most was Sharp at 14%. I do think Ayton looks okay on DraftKings as well, but I don't see anybody that's just pulling away. I think Grant, Ayton, Sharp should be around 10% owned. That's where my optimal rates are. That's where they're owned. That's about it. I saw some people earlier mentioning they liked Anthony Simons today. It's not that I don't, but 6,600 point guard only. Like, we kind of know what we're getting there. Matchup works for sure, but he's not really getting much ownership, and I don't really see him as a situation where he should. He wants to be your GPP guy. Like, I don't think that's a crazy thing to do, but Anthony Simons is in no way a priority today. There's not all that much for Portland. Like, Utah's 80% owned. Portland's half that. It's all just Ayton on FanDuel. Those are our 7 games, folks. 7 games up, 7 games down. I kind of like this slate. It's going to get a little weirder when we get the Boston news and we get the San Antonio news and we get the official Golden State news. So you guys want to make sure you're watching Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock today. But for now, everybody, I'm going to get on out of here. NFL Strategy Show with Laffy and Greg is coming up next. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Good luck tonight. I won't see you guys again until Monday, so have some fun. Be safe. Adios.